Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Committee Reads. I am your host KWCs, and with me today I have GVR and Nagoda. And today we will be going over match 157, Gigan vs. Kumasogami by Kishan Johnson. Being aided by hordes of fighter ships, Gigan obliterated what was once known as Tokyo, Japan. The menacing cyborg and thousands upon thousands of exillion small fighter UFOs went around spamming their energy blasts at anything in sight. It only took about 3 hours for the monster...
Spamming.
I thought I said spamming.
No, it is spamming, but just that feels weird to have in a
That is true.
match.
Yeah, no, that is true. It's not wrong, but it's also
It's not wrong.
Right.
It has the same energy as Icky.
Icky this early in, huh? Alright. It only took about 3 hours for the monster and the fighter squadron to annihilate the entire metropolis. Tokyo was now a desolate, destroyed, fume-filled, broken shell of what it once used to be. The countless amounts of small fighter UFOs that were dispatched had returned to the Exilium mothership like if it was a beehive, flying inside and resting in their many docking stations. Gigan marched forth, not having a clue on what his next mission was, as his superior, X, not the regulator, was sleeping inside the mothership's royal bunker, happily dreaming of world domination, turning humans into his cattle. All of a sudden, the ground rumbled violently. Pieces of cement fell inward, creating a large rut. Right? Alright. The rut continued to form until making a giant ring around in the ground, which was about 150 meters in diameter, which I don't think is that big, but whatever. Gigan slowly took...
It's something, I guess.
In diameter, I guess that's another story. Gigan slowly took some steps back as he was confused. After the ring was formed, the paved streets and buildings within it began to break apart and descend into the earth, continuing to shake the entire area. A haunting bellow sounded from beneath the surface, startling Gigan. Hellish flames arose from the gigantic sinkhole in the middle of Tokyo. A four-fingered hand sprung up and attached itself with the surface. It was then a humanoid beast pulled itself out of the earth, rising from the depths of hell.
Kumasogami's not from hell.
Yeah, I know, right? A masculine demon it was, an ancient god who was once lost in time because of its fallen kingdom. Its molten body pumped magma inside, acting as its life force. 4 curved spikes jutted out of the demon's shoulders. One smaller version on the edges of both sides and one larger version on either side of its shoulder blades. The intimidation wings. Rows of sharp teeth lined its mouth while drops of hot lava drooled from its maw. Granite fins protruded out of the beast's head along with 2 sideways spikes. A single spike curved out of the top of its skull. Its single triangular eye glowed with orange malice. Kumasogami bellowed a challenge to the blue and black alien that stood before him. It has been, which is wrong. It should be it had been, but whatever. It's been way too long since battling another monster. The god from hell had a never-ending bloodlust which insisted of battle, bloodshed, and burning landscapes.
Shouldn't that be consistent?
That is true. It should be consistent.
Or like insisted on.
Or yeah, it might have been insisted on. Yeah, it's either consistent of or insisted on, which it could be either or. He was eager for war. The cyborg looked like a formidable opponent. Gigan clung his sides together and let forth a mechanical screech. He accepted. The 2 menaces charged each other and let their shoulders collide with force. The impact of the double shoulder block resulted in both of them crashing to the ground. Being the faster of the 2, Gigan was quick to his feet. Afterward, the cyborg began to stomp his right foot into his opponent's stomach continuously. Every forceful stomp caused Kumasogami to gasp for air. Magic creature, I'll roll with it. Gigan stopped his assault, only to start a new one. Swinging his scythe left to right, the mechanical alien bashed them into his foe's cranium. Now angered, Kumasogami grabbed his enemy's blades and threw them to the ground. The molten demon leaped onto his opponent and gave way with his claws, slashing at the cyborg. A minor scar was formed in Gigan's upper chest and another in his face, burning him slightly. Activating his rocket boosters, Gigan suddenly flew backward, escaping his opponent's beatdown. The cosmic cyborg landed on his feet and charged his enemy once again. Kumasogami was ready, ducking under a scythe which nearly took his head off. The demon halted the other oncoming blade with his right forearm. Kumasogami successfully grasped and held Gigan's severing weapons. Afterward, he headbutted his opponent's singular eye. The red visor did not crack, but so happened to flicker like a light bulb. Gigan held his blades to his face and screeched in agony. He was temporarily blinded. Shortly after, the infrared light in his visor became whole again, allowing him to see. When the half-robot looked at his enemy, a pair of skeletal-like appendages appeared from its back. The triple-clawed wings began to creak as they did. Oh, there they are! As they did so. Kumasogami cackled with malicious glee as he hoisted his right arm upward. His outer fingers formed into the spikes, while his inner fingers connected with each other and extended. A deadly sword was materialized from his hands, swinging it left and right. Kumasogami marched toward his foe and sluggishly swung his sword. One of Gigan's torso spikes had been hacked off. The cyborg screeched in irritation. After lighting up, a single blast of red energy burst from Gigan's visor and struck Kumasogami point blank, but it didn't end there. The single blast separated and spread into a cluster of small explosions all over the demon's body. Kumasogami stumbled back and bellowed in agony. With his opponent distracted, Gigan came up with a new way to end the fight, bringing his right arm straight across. Two grappling cables lashed out from the alien scythe and wrapped around his enemy's throat. Kumasogami clutched the long wires as he was caught off guard. Gigan hoisted his other scythe outward, and two more cables fired as well, constricting around the lava god's right arm. A sinister smirk appeared on Gigan's evil face. Afterward, his mega buzzsaw activated, revving with insanity. Kumasogami yelped in shock. Gigan maneuvered his arms in a twisting manner, carefully bringing his opponent toward his death machine. Kumasogami thrashed around and panicked, his feet carving into the earth as he became closer and closer to his enemy. He couldn't relinquish himself from the cyborg's clutches. The fiery beast was inches away from being sawed in half. Gigan squawked in evil glee. Just as he was about to be cleaved in two, Kumasogami connected his right foot and left to the left side of his enemy's stomach, halting his doom. He praised the devil himself that he was still standing in one whole piece. The god of Kumaso then purposely fell backward, with his heated foot still steaming off his opponent's torso. Gigan fell with him. After crashing down, Kumasogami shot his leg out with intense force. Gigan screamed as he was sent hurtling back onto his three wings, sending chunks of cement and debris into the air. Kumasogami lifted himself off the ground, cut the grappling hooks around him with his demonic sword. The remaining wires that wrapped around him had eventually burned away. He watched closely as his foe stood up and sprung into the air. Gigan flew away over his opponent's body before stopping and cracking a devilish smile. After getting into the correct position, the dark blue cyborg flew at his enemy like a bullet. Kumasogami's left shoulder was grazed by Gigan's abdomen saw, cutting it open, spewing lava blood into the sky. Kumasogami clutched his open flesh wound while crashing onto his back. After standing upright, Gigan soared by once again, which forced the devilish monster on his back. Kumasogami slowly got to his feet and glared at his approaching enemy with malevolence in his single eye. Gigan attempted a third flyby, but was treated otherwise. Kumasogami stood still and hoisted his hellish sword upward. The deadly cyborg was forced to fly into its direction. The molten blade stabbed into his chest and carved all the way down his mechanical pelvis. Gigan screeched wildly as he fell from the air, flattening against the streets of a destroyed Tokyo. He wasn't moving. Pass.
Cautiously, Kumasogami walked toward his enemy's prone form. The demon god began to examine his body. There were no signs of movement. It was time to finish this. Finish it. Kumasogami hoisted his burning blade to the sky, ready to slice his fallen opponent into scrap metal. Right as he was about to end the battle, the cyborg's armored tail lashed out and whacked him straight in his demonic face. Kumasogami held his normal hand to his pained face and staggered, screaming out as he did so. The Exilian champion, Gigan, was back on his feet and ready to dish out his revenge on his humanoid foe. Before Kumasogami could even recover, Gigan fired his cluster light ray. The red energy blast collided into the demon's chest and created a series of small, agonizing explosions. Kumasogami toppled onto his back thanks to the cluster beam. Gigan glared at his enemy. A horrible gash was visible straight down the cyborg's body. Wires were torn apart, sparks popped and sizzled, and putrid fumes floated away from his wound. Yet, Gigan wouldn't give up. The fiery demon, Kumasogami, shook his head, trying to regain his wits. Upon doing so, he looked upward, only to have Gigan leap right on top of him. He began to smack his giant blades around, wildly. There was no strategy involved. Using his intellect, Kumasogami blocked every forceful blow with his arms. The unearthly creature then utilized the turnover maneuver, spinning his opponent right onto his winged back. Kumasogami swung his left fist around crazily while swiping his fiery sword with slower movements. Using his quick speed, Gigan blocked and evaded every swipe that came his way. Even though his swings were sluggish, Kumasogami surprisingly hacked Gigan's cranium spike right off. The sinister cyborg released a cry of pain while squirming around. Kumasogami stood upright and backed away from his nervous foe. His sword hand morphed back into claws before forming into something else. 3 of his fingers on his right hand then morphed into long arrows. Afterward, his left hand transformed into a large archer bow. Pushing his weapons together, the bow and arrows became one with each other. When Gigan got back to his clawed feet, a trio of fire-tipped arrows detonated against his armored chest, burning him and toppling him to the ground. Screeching in agony, the sadistic alien then flopped onto his stomach and stood upward, his back facing his enemy. Kumasogami fired off another set of flaming arrows into his foe's wings, which slightly set the red appendages ablaze. Gigan stumbled forward, the tips of his wings being burnt to a crisp. Kumasogami's weapons morphed back into hands. Gigan turned around and sprinted toward his enemy. The 2 demons began close-quarters combat, swinging and swiping away at their bodies. With centuries of combined battle experience from both, not a single hit was landed. Gigan, with his sinister speed, managed to spin his opponent around and deliver a terrifying backslash. Kumasogami stood stiff, in shock. A gruesome, brutal, and atrocious gash appeared on the right side of the collarbone, which traveled all the way to his left hip. Thin pools of blood like lava spilled out of the deep, open wound. Gigan slowly backed away from his nearly traumatized foe, cackling with evil glee as he witnessed his opponent's pain and suffering. With a menacing growl, Kumasogami slowly turned around and scowled at his deadly adversary. Gigan bashed his blades together, which failed to even intimidate his foe. The diabolical demon scanned and studied the cyborg's scythe weapons, learning their shape, size, and form. Staring at his hands, Kumasogami then shot them straight across from his body and let the magic happen. His fingers combined into one before lengthening slightly, rising to a minimal height and extending to extreme lengths. Once completed, it was clear on what the god from hell tried to accomplish. Kumasogami's hands transformed into his very own scythe blades, mimicking Gigan's. And we have the money shot of the match.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what everyone remembers this match for.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For a good reason, because goddamn.
Oh yeah.
They were the same exact length, size, and weapons made for diabolical intentions and mass murder. The only difference was the fact that Gigan's were sleek and metallic, while Kumasogami's were rocky and molten. For the love of everything that is ruthless and unholy, Gigan couldn't believe his eye. His satanic rival had the ability to copy his own trademark weapons. He wouldn't even give him a chance to put them to use. He was absolutely infuriated. The cyborg's outer wings bent sideways, his frightening blades connected with the streets below as he crouched down. His rocket boosters in his lower back roared to life. Gigan, with madness in his mind, shot forward and glared at his foe. Tricking the slower beast, Gigan spun around with quick speed and clamped his tail onto his enemy's face. The metallic claw tip dug into Kumasogami's hideous face as he was dragged across the ground, releasing a struggled cry of distress. Gigan flew higher into the sky, lifting his opponent right off the surface. Higher, higher, and higher they began to gain altitude. Kumasogami smacked Gigan's tail continuously, but to no avail. The cosmic alien continued his flight into the midnight sky, rising over the smoke and putrid gas fumes from the city below. It was then Gigan and Kumasogami were sailing across the clouds at a rate of Mach speeds. Kumasogami couldn't hold on to his opponent's tail. Having no other option, the demon's scythes changed into his normal hands. Now that he could hold on to something, Kumasogami grasped Gigan's tail and yanked his tail clamp right off of his lava-bled face. Slowly, carefully, and cautiously, the satanic humanoid spun his body around, making sure he wouldn't lose grip. When that plan succeeded, Kumasogami crawled up Gigan's armored tail and morphed his right hand into a mimicking scythe once again. Swiping to the left with all his might, Kumasogami shredded a big chunk out of his enemy's middle wing. Gigan cursed him as he screeched in anguish. Kumasogami's deadly weapon changed into a four-fingered hand again. He slowly crawled to face Gigan's front side, holding on for dear life by grasping his outer wings. The task was completed and Kumasogami was thankful for it. Using the harsh, atmospheric winds as momentum, Gigan then suddenly spun around onto his back, now flying upside down. Good. This could only make things easier for Kumasogami. They looked into each other's demented faces, scowling and growling. Hoisting his hands outward, two molten scythes materialized from Kumasogami's hands. Gigan and Kumasogami did battle in the dark skies of Tokyo. Somehow, they knew each other's every tactic, avoiding and blocking every hit. Suddenly, Gigan swatted one of his enemy's blades away and drove his right-hand scythe into the demon's left shoulder. It went straight through, coming out the other side. Kumasogami yelped in pain. His inner magma began to eat away at Gigan's massacre weapon, but he was too arrogant and full of himself to release it. With the cyborg's right side vulnerable, Kumasogami plunged his left-hand scythe into the right side of his opponent's chest. The pain screech released from Gigan. Wires and advanced technological mechanisms within his chest were incinerated almost instantly. To repay the satanic bastard, Gigan shoved his left-hand scythe into Kumasogami's right hip, spewing lava blood into the air. With one deadly weapon remaining, Kumasogami thrust his other molten scythe into the left side of Gigan's throat, forcing a gag squawk to come out. The two battling devils glared at each other. Malice, hate, and demonic intentions fueled their evil minds. It was then Gigan's rocket boosters faded in and finally died off. They began to plummet. Pass.
Accidentally nosediving like two competing missiles they did. Screeching and roaring, they let loose as they continued to fall from the night sky at an extremely rapid speed. Finally, with the massive force of a miniature atomic bomb, Gigan and Kumasogami struck the surface of the earth. A thunderous boom sounded upon impact, creating a rising mushroom cloud. A powerful shockwave of wind and debris blanketed the entire area. Smaller buildings crumbled and glass shattered off the larger ones. Then everything went silent. The mushroom cloud dispersed, and the shockwave ended. Once everything cleared up, Gigan and Kumasogami's bodies were noticeable inside the ginormous impact crater. Oil and synthetic blood drooled out of the many puncture wounds in Gigan's structure. Molten lava covered Kumasogami's damaged frame. Gigan's right-hand scythe partially shattered upon impact, its broken piece eaten away by his enemy's magma. The top half of Kumasogami's left-hand scythe had disconnected and stuck inside his adversary's chest. A portion of Gigan's left-hand scythe was still plunged within his foe, which did not meet the other part of his blade. Surprisingly, Kumasogami's right-hand scythe stayed perfectly intact. Gigan's cranium detached from his neck, being decapitated. Kumasogami's head still connected with his body. His triangular eye was dim. Then it lit up. He sat up as well. He surveyed his body. It was a broken shell of what it once used to be, just like the city he fought in. Slowly and painfully, Kumasogami rose to his feet, almost collapsing as he did so. When staring at his left hand, he realized how damaged it was, but he could fix it. The broken weapon began to regenerate and fix itself before morphing into a copied scythe once again, only to be deformed into a hand. The other scythe did the same. He clenched his fingers and reopened them continuously, trying to get that normal feeling and magma flow in his hands once again. Now that he had his hands back, Kumasogami relinquished the broken portion of his... Give me a moment.
Yep. Alright.
Sorry about that, I just needed to take a drink.
That's fine.
Where was I at?
Relinquished the broken portion.
Okay. Now that he had his hands back, Kumasogami relinquished the broken portion of his deadly opponent's blade from his hip, spurting lava blood like crazy. He held back his shriek of agony. After dropping it to the ground, Kumasogami scowled at his deceased foe. It was time to go on a trip. Grabbing his tail, Kumasogami dragged Gigan's destroyed body until reaching the haunting sinkhole he arrived from. The satanic beast, the demonic humanoid, the molten monstrosity, the god of Kumaso, the god from hell, Kumasogami, was victorious. With lava dripping out of its maw, the devil reared his head back, bellowed triumphantly, and jumped into the sinkhole with Gigan's body, descending straight to his beloved home, hell. Winner, Kumasogami.
All right.
Also, that is a lot of titles for one monster right there.
Surprisingly, I'm surprised I didn't use any of them except for God of Kumaso, the canon one, or the official one.
Now Monster X is gonna need to try to get his meteor down that hole to get revenge for Gigan.
Yeah, shove it down there.
No, it needs to like the perfect what is it? Like the perfect long shot.
Yeah, I know, right? But freaking, yeah, I know. I think this one's fight is really solid. I think the first half of it's still some solid material. They do get some nice brutal hits in. But for me, surprisingly, the match really picked up with the money shot. Like, not just because of the money shot of Kumasogami's hands imitating Gigan's, but everything that happens thereafter. Like, definitely, like, the sky portion is always a lot of fun where you can get, like, a ground monster high into the sky, and it's like they're just clinging to each other and fighting and vying for supremacy in the air. That was great. Like, again, what came before was solid, what came after was great. So I had a really good time with this one. Great, again, very solid match all around. Really enjoyed it, and yeah, just that latter half. I do have to say, my banner, the image composition is fine, but the execution could have been better. I was having a very picky day when it came to Destroyed Tokyo, and yeah, there are definitely elements I could have fleshed out a lot better with the techniques I have now, and this could have been greatly improved upon. But I am willing to, again, let myself break since I know what could be fixed and how it could be better, or just, scrap and rebuild and do something a lot more visually appealing. So, yeah, I think this, execution-wise, the banner leaves a lot to be desired, but I think you see the basic composition of what I was going for.
Yeah.
So.
I'll be right back.
Oh.
I'll get my thoughts when I come back.
Gotcha. But yeah, I think, again, just very solid first half, fantastic latter half, and the idea of Kumasogami's shape-shifting hands, like, imitating what he sees is really cool. And hopefully we'll get more of that, I think. Hopefully. GVR's temporarily AFK, if you will. So, Nagoda, what'd you think of match 157?
It was a lot of fun. Good scythe-on-scythe fight in this match. Plus, I love, all, the shape-shifting different weapons he did. That Kumasogami did, because he can do that.
Yeah.
He can change his hands into basically any weapon he wants,
right?
Which is something I love about when I use Kumasogami, because I don't have to just use punch or sword slash or arrows. I can do a big mace hand or giant sledgehammer or something.
So long as it's closer to a brute weapon and not a super complicated
no guns, no cannons.
Yeah, no guns, because those are a little too complex to me. Granted, he does fire arrows, so shooting projectiles is not out of the question, but it would be preferable to keep Kumasogami more within sort of weapons that existed in ancient times, so
nothing with machinery inside them.
Right. So.
Also, the banner looks pretty fun. I like... is Gigan purple? He looks kind of purple, but yeah. Kumasogami, I understand why it looks so bad, because it's horrible finding pictures of him.
Good pictures, especially around the time I made this banner too. It was so hard to find good images of him. Well, good images from the back. Oh, kill me.
Back images of monsters are just impossible to find.
Because they all want to see the front.
Yeah, people only post front images or side images, never back images. Even if it's a side image, it's facing towards you still.
Right. Oh, alright. But yeah, very good.
Wait, who's next?
GVR.
Me. This match was metal as hell. I loved it. Just the brutal fight between the two was amazing.
Yeah, no.
And yeah, like once Kumasogami turned his hands into Gigan's size, the match got even better. Just like, especially the part in the air where Kumasogami is just like crawling all over Gigan, trying to hit him the best he can, was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The banner, Kumasogami looks a bit off, but I do love this banner.
Oh, well, thank you.
Like, yeah, Kumasogami doesn't look the best, but just like the composition with the arc of fire overhead, just the glimpses of the decimated city in the background, it just looks awesome.
Which is actually a shot from Final Wars.
Yeah.
Which, again, low-key, I didn't know the clone tool at the time, and I was like, okay, how do I do this?
I mean, I feel like you made it work.
Mm-hmm. So, to be fair, the picture of Kumasogami was straight up from the movie, because I did remember there was like a point where it was like, oh yeah, they show him from the back. It looked about good here as it did in the movie, so...
Yeah, because you do what I do when I make banners, when I want to cover up something, just put a bunch of fire and smoke everywhere.
Yeah, that's how you do it. But yeah, great. All around, really fun match that I swear to gosh gets better after the imitation Gigan Scythe part. I swear to gosh, it got so much... Like, again, great first half, better second half. It's crazy. So, and I love... because, I was not expecting Gigan to stab Kumasogami in the face and take it to the sky. I was like, what the heck? Yeah! So yeah, no, great stuff. Great stuff from Keyshawn Johnson. We had a trip with this. With that said, this has been match 157. We'll see you guys next time for match 158. Till then, everyone.